Welcome back. Yesterday, a Quebec judge denied a request by a Muslim advocacy group and a civil liberties organization. The request was to suspend the province's ban on prayer rooms in public schools, arguing that Muslim students shouldn't have to wait while the bigger legal challenge makes it through the courts, further stating that it could cause irreparable harm to Muslim students. But the judge ultimately countered that the groups hadn't really demonstrated a sense of urgency because they only filed their request for a stay in June when the ban went into effect on May 3rd. Joining us is Stephen Brown, CEO of the National Council of Canadian Muslims. Stephen, thank you very much for your time this morning.
Hey, thanks for having me.
So, okay, you didn't get your stay yesterday, but still, I mean, the lawsuit still is continuing, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
We didn't get the stay yesterday, but actually it was pretty interesting explanation that was rendered from the bench. So the judge did say that they found that there was a violation of rights, that there was irreparable harm being done to Muslim students, but he felt that there wasn't a sense of urgency, especially because of the timing. It's towards the end of June, it's exam period, right. and so, we're going to be looking at our options once we get the written decision, and then from there we'll decide how to proceed. But the case continues on its merits.
Could you appeal the stay?
Yes, we could appeal the
that's
stay.
Appealable, right?
That's correct. It's something that we're going to be looking into. But at this point in time, there's a lot of factors to consider.
Sure.
So how we proceed throughout the lawsuit is a discussion we're having with our lawyers. But one thing is for sure, we're going to see this through to the end.
So this is interesting. So even though the decision went against you for the stay, the judge did claim that there was a violation of rights here?
Well, yeah, it's quite clear because what the decree actually says is that kids are not allowed to pray or what they call manifest or visible prayers, whatever that means, anywhere on school grounds. So not on the soccer field, not in the hallways, not in the gym. So it's if you want to pray, I mean, if you're saying feasibly, if a kid says, "Oh my God, please Lord, help me with my math test," I guess if he closes his eyes and says it quietly, that's fine. But if he were to put his hands together and open his eyes and maybe say it out loud, that is now illegal in Quebec. And of course, for Muslim students, especially who are praying in Ramadan, and all of this happened in Ramadan for an obvious reason, because Muslims, we tend to pray more during Ramadan. Now you have this total and complete ban. So if your sincere religious belief tells you that you should be praying, in the middle of the day, and they say, well, unfortunately, you can go to the streets and navigate the cars, and maybe you can ask Tim Hortons if you can use their bathroom, that is clearly a violation of our fundamental rights as Canadians.
Okay, so let's drill down on that, Stephen, because not everyone understands these distinctions, because there are these principles, right, in our society that generically are called, separation of church and state. And in public schools, there's been a lot, of course, of talk, especially with this provincial government, with secularism and everything, about keeping religious symbols. Of course, Bill 21, we all know about that, keeping religious symbols out of schools, public schools. But now, how is a total ban on prayer in public schools a violation of fundamental rights? What's the theory behind that?
Okay, well, I think first we have to look at how the government is actually trying to implement this. The first thing is, when this was first brought up as an issue, the first thing Bernard Drinville said was, as long as you have places that are multi-confessional, or as long as it's not reserved for one particular religious group, and as long as nobody's excluded, that's fine. And that's a perfectly normal legal position to have. Yeah. But it was only after the Parti Québécois and then nationalist politics got involved that then they said, okay, we're not going to have any prayer in school. And then when you look at what the minister said, he came out and said, well, I can't ban prayer entirely because it's a right, but, as long as kids do it quietly. So basically, think about this.
Yeah.
It is legal to pray in a school insofar as you do so within the dictates deemed acceptable by the Ministry of Education. That's secularism. A minister is now telling people how they should pray.
Exactly.
Right. So it's ridiculous on the face of it. And, and that is why this has nothing to do with secularism. The language of secularism is used, but what this really is about is nationalist politics. What this is really about is politicians exploiting people's anxieties about the perennity of Quebec culture and French in order to gain political gain and make political gains. And as we see, unfortunately, we see a rising trend of the government using or targeting minority rights in order to make political gains. And that's the story of what's happening here.
Can we go a bit further, Stephen? I'll say it. I mean, 21 was definitely about targeting Muslims. This comes up. It's not a coincidence that this came out and started the discussion during Ramadan.
Yeah.
And so here we go again. This government. Remember, we have a premier that says there's no Islamophobia in Quebec. It doesn't exist. Right. He said that. Yeah. So I mean, how do we stop this? I get the court challenge, but this is just trying to, again, work on this on generating this fear of the other, a fear of and try to generate resentment towards, people who aren't, of the same religion or the same origins as others.
Well, that's exactly right. And I think there's one quote that François Legault said right after they passed Bill 21 that says everything about how this government perceives this issue. In an interview with Radio-Canada, he said, walking on the street in broad daylight, in order to avoid extremes, sometimes you got to give a little to the majority. Because there are racist people out there that don't want to see people wearing religious symbols, even to la place publique, even in the street. So what exactly is he giving away to the majority? Like chocolate bars? No, he's giving away our rights. He's giving away our rights in exchange for what? Political gain. So, and the problem is, I think if you really drill down to the root cause, the root cause is there are holes in our laws, in our legal system, that unfortunately allow governments who don't have a lot of respect for minority rights to unilaterally take them away at the stroke of a pen. I mean, basically, in order to, when we repatriated the Constitution, the notwithstanding clause was included. And right now, you can pass a law that not only removes people's right to freedom of assembly, freedom of religion, habeas corpus, unlawful detention, unlawful search and seizure. And right now, as it stands, you can write down number 33 on a piece of paper and you can take away anybody's fundamental rights. Yeah. And if it's popular, if people are afraid of a particular minority, if people feel that this particular minority's religion or their language or their culture is a threat, then politicians feel like they have a license to use the power of the state to take their rights away and then claim that what they're actually doing is protecting the country. And so we have a real dilemma because, Canada was a country that was built in order to manage diversity. We are a country that from our inception had different peoples. We had First Nation people. We had the European people. We had English people, French people, and then different waves of people have joined the country ever since. My family came to Canada in the early 1800s. There were African Americans coming through the Underground Railroad. And everybody's contributed to this country. And so our laws are designed in order to manage. How do you have a society that's cohesive with many different kinds of people with different beliefs and languages and cultures and traditions? And if you have a country that is increasingly diverse, I mean, demographically, 70% of people who are born on the island of Montreal every year have at least one parent born outside the country. If we have the possibility, if it's possible for politicians to take away people's rights when it's popular, we have a real problem.
We really do. Stephen, I wish you all the best with the court challenge, and I thank you for your time this morning.